And surprise, it's the 95th episode of Where's Wayne's World? And Kelly. Wayne is very upset that he couldn't be on the show today for a lot of reasons, mainly because of our super special guest. But sometimes we have to change the time of our recording, and it's not to accommodate Wayne or I, it's to accommodate our guest. And our super guest today is Paulette Pfeiffer. Never asked her if she's related to Nouchelle Pfeiffer, who's affectionately known as Tinkerbell. And the first time I met her, because of our permanent guest host, Nouchelle, who's one of our favorite people, and my other favorite person is Tinkerbell. So this is great. But the first time I met her, there's a family I grew up with, the Kellys. And Janie Kelly's mom would come in, and you two are like the spitting image. I've told you about it. I think I've told Janie, but hopefully she's going to watch the show up in Virginia with her mom, because not only are you two beautiful on the outside, you're two of the most incredible women on the inside as well. And I can't remember what rank Mr. Kelly was, but this guy was one of the most wonderful human beings, one of the most wonderful couples. And they come in, and I'd pump gas when I was like 14, 15, 16 years old. I worked at Skippy's Texaco in Manassas, Virginia. And they would come in. So when oh, bless you. Look at that.
Bless you.
Hi,
Take a bow. God
But,
bless you.
So, you meet somebody and you go, wow, they remind me of somebody who I think is really special. And then you find out, wow, there's a lot more to it and special in their own right. So we're going to mention real quickly what you do, which you have started a foundation or a nonprofit, whatever you call it, Silent Victims of Crime, which is for kids whose parents are incarcerated. And we've had you on the show about that, but I wanted to bring you back on the show, as did Wayne. Sorry, Wayne, to talk about you, not the amazing organization that you've created to help these kids, which is amazing. And I get to be their Santa Claus. And Nouchelle's who's one who dragged me in, as usual, everything else she drags me into. But you have a history that is, you're a young kid, but you're really not. And you're one of the last people that actually was a victim of the Holocaust. And I think people that are younger need to understand exactly what that means. And you were actually a little tiny human being. And I believe and I'll have you start talking now, but your sister is actually born in a prison for people. That is, I still can't fathom it, even though it happened to millions of people and worse. But just your journey, just kind of give us a 25-hour, story of your life.
Well, life is interesting for every single one of us, because we all have our little twists and turns in our life. And no matter whether we're rich, poor, or live anywhere on the continent, we're going to have little hiccups along the way. But I started out as a hiccup. I was as big as a hiccup. I was born at 2 pounds in a field, and my parents weren't really quite sure where it was. It was in the USSR, and it was freezing cold out. And we weren't in a hospital. My parents had escaped from the Holocaust and were hiding in the USSR, together with many other people who were starving, but at least weren't killed by the Nazis. They avoided being killed by just hiding. And so people hid anywhere from Poland, Germany, and would run into the USSR area to hide. So none of us really knew where we were born or exactly when we were born. So I think I was born in January of 1945. My parents spent, my father and mother were definitely very malnourished. They could barely function. My brother died of starvation in my mother's arms, and he was 3 years old. And so when I was born, my parents were petrified that I would die too, because I can't imagine what 2 pounds looks like in a baby. And of course, no incubator, no hospital, no one helping her to give birth. And so they ran from USSR to Poland, Lodz, L-O-T-Z, Lodz, and it took them about 3 months. And that's as much as we know. That's about as approximate and as close as I can get to when I was born. By the time we
Wow.
got to Poland, I was 5 pounds. I guess I'd gained some weight and
Huge.
still alive. All right. And at 3 months, 5 pounds. So you can imagine what that looks like. So
Wow.
nourished, and we ended up in Poland looking for family to see if they were alive, because my parents are both from Poland. And we started looking, and my mom found her house where her family used to live. Everyone had been killed. Everyone. I can't imagine my mom in rags, no food, dragging a child that's 5 pounds at 3 months and looking for family, and knocks on the door, and a woman opens the door and she goes, "What do you want?" in Polish. And my mother says, "Oh, I'm so glad you're okay. This is my mother's house. My family lives here." And she goes, "No, they don't. I live here now," and closed the door in my mother's face.
Wow.
So my mother had no idea what to do. My father had no idea. They had no idea what to do. So they went to the embassy carrying me, still carrying me. And the embassy said, "Well, was she just born? Because I look like a newborn." And they said, "Yes." And so therefore I have papers that I was born in Poland
Oh, wow.
in April of 45, even though I was already 3 months old. So they said
Wow.
April, I was really born in January, but I didn't find any of this out until 3 months ago. I really didn't know.
Wow. She's a January baby like me.
January, are you
Well,
January?
I'm an April
Hey,
baby,
Garnet girl.
so
Hey,
Oh, no,
Garnet girl.
you're gonna have to fill me in. All I knew is that I was Aries, an Aries personality. So I thought it was Aries. Well, the world is very interesting because I've lived through 8 decades. I'm 79, going to be 80 next year. And
not much
when
more than 5 pounds.
oh my God, I live a little, I weigh a little bit more than 5 pounds, and
Not much.
not a lot. I'm all of 4'10" and a quarter. You know how children measure their quarters?
And a quarter. I love it.
But the world somehow or other looks like a big, amazing, wonderful place to me, in spite of all my life, and in spite of all the things that were good and bad and indifferent in my life. It always looked like people always told me that I saw the world through rose-colored glasses. And to me, it seemed like a little bit of an insult, but I think it's a positive thing. What's wrong with being positive instead of realistic, which is what I read in the New York Times a few years ago, many years ago, 30 years ago. They came out in an article. Is the reality of life, or is what you think reality is? That's the reality of life. And they came up with a decision that it's what you think reality is the real reality. If you
Probably the
think
last
about
good article they ever wrote. Sorry. Well, and it's, there's victims and there's victors.
Yes.
And you've had so many challenges. And, I grew up at a country club. My parents worked very hard. I was the youngest of 9, but it was completely different way you were brought into this world. And I think people need to know it, because, everyone thinks everything's, is all rosy. And it is if you create that world for you, despite the challenges. I mean, those challenges made you who you are today, thank God.
100%.
But so many people that are, "Oh, gee, I'm upset because of, I didn't get, the leather interior in my new car, or it rained today," and stuff like that. And to see the challenges. Now, you have a younger sister?
I have, well, from Poland, when we found out we didn't have a home, my father's family home was destroyed, but my mother's, they wouldn't let her in. They said they were the new owners. And it was a Polish family, and it was given to them by the Nazis. So,
Wow.
I mean, there are a lot of choices, we could make if you were my mom, or I was my mom. I said I certainly wouldn't have walked away, but mom and dad walked away and said, "Where do we go now?" So the embassy in Poland said a lot of the Jews going back to Germany and to the concentration camp area. And she goes, why are they going there? She says, because if anybody survived, that's where they're going. And it was called DP camps. We are in Germany, and I have no idea how mom got there and dad. And we arrive in Germany, and we end up living in a DP camp, which was an old prison. Our particular DP camp was cleaned up by Americans, and it had doctors, it had food, it had 200, almost 200 beds in one big room. And this building used to be the old Hitler Youth Training Camp.
Oh,
So I was raised for 5 years in the Hitler Youth Training Camp, where they taught kids how to shoot Jews, blacks, and Christians.
wow. You know, and so for all those Holocaust deniers, hello. You know, it just breaks my heart. It's amazing. And and you got to see out of a window you told me about. That's your first memory.
My first memory at 1.5 years old is there were all bunk beds everywhere and cement floors and one little window, kind of, maybe if I think about it now, it looked probably bigger to me because I was little.
Right.
And I moved 1.5. So maybe it was 1 foot by 2 feet, 2.5 feet, 3 feet long. It was a narrow, long window with bars on it. And at one point it was a prison, and then into a Hitler Youth Training Camp. And I remember sitting on a big wooden table because all of us ate at this table. We took turns eating at this table. There were over 190 people living in that little barrack and that little prison. And
Right.
I was sitting on this table, and there was butter on the table and a knife. And the sun was coming in from the window right onto the table. It looked like a ray, right? It was a ray of light, but it looked like something out of this world, right, for a 1.5-year-old. And I went to bend over to look at the ray and touch it, and I fell right on the knife and cut my lip right here.
Oh, no.
And I still have that. That's probably why that memory is so clear.
Right.
And memory is there was a bathtub outside, and it was Germany is very cold in winter, but you took baths outside because we had no bathroom inside the house. So and everybody would want to give me a bath because I was one of the first children in the camp, because the other children had been killed or had died. And then
Right.
a year later, my sister was born. So when I was 1.5 years old, my sister was born in the camp. And my parents already had some food. They already had doctors taking care of them. And I remember going to a school. They actually created a school, like a nursery, for us, the little children that were being born right after the war. But I was one of the first two that was still survivor from the war.
So
That's amazing.
I'm listening to you, and you know, probably the audience is like, this is the first time you don't see her laughing, and you know, I'm trying to really wrap my mind, and you know, having a relationship with you, you know, 3+ years, you know, and Kelly and the other day, for our listeners, Tinkerbell was saying how much she loved Shelly and Kelly. She's like, I love you. You're my family. And to hear what you've gone through and to place love at the top of your list, to place us in your heart. And when people that have gone through so much less, I mean, we can't even fathom, and that you are still being a protector of love, right? You said you were like the oldest in your village, and as you was talking for the first time, I could see you as a protector. Those that protected you, and now you're protecting another village, right? And now Kelly and I are in your village, and you're like saying, I really do, I love you and Kelly, and I don't ever want us to be broken, and I always want us to be together. I get it. I feel this more than ever, and we're blessed. We're blessed to have you in our life. We're
I
blessed.
feel the same way, Shell. And Kelly, the two of you have added another layer of what I consider angels that bring love and kindness and caring to the world, because there's so many people out there, and will always be people out there that are so hurt themselves that all they want to do is hurt. But to come out from a hurt place and figure out that the world was a good place took a lot of doing on my parents' part. My
Yeah.
parents really, really,
I
really,
commend them.
right?
Yes, I commend them.
Oh,
Anymore. But there's a very cute story. Mom and Dad thought they were the only survivors. And it turned out when we got to the camps that my mother's sister had married my father's brother, and they were alive,
wow.
living in the same camp that we did, which
No.
was a miracle when you think about it, right? The surviving couple. And so
Right.
as a child, I didn't even know anything was wrong with the world. As a child, I just ran in the woods, ran to school, sang. I was always pretty artistic. I always liked painting and drawing. And my sister, like, was a year and a half younger, but we thought we were twins because we were together 24 hours a day. By the time I was 3 years old, she was taller than I was.
I was going to ask that.
Dressed us alike, so we were twins. But years old, she was much taller than I was. Both of us have, you can't tell because I blow my hair out, but my sister wears it in an afro. We both have afro hair. So we think that a lot of black in our background somewhere, because my sister definitely wears her hair in a full afro and always has. And I relate better to African Americans than I do to Americans.
Well, thanks a lot.
They're more fun. They just are willing to let it get
Irish Americans are fun too.
when it cut it all off, right? New.
Let me see you wear afro, Kelly.
Yeah, that's not a look I can't pull off.
So it's
Oh, I
amazing.
love. You relate to everybody from newborns to, you know, there was at the last Christmas event, there was a group of women that were at that same place, that community center that y'all use, that weren't part of it, but you know, Nouchelle and you had them come in and they were just watching all the kids, and these women were just loving life. And you know, the effect that you and your organization and those kids have on people, it's absolutely, I never would want another kid to be through your program, but that's not the reality. But to know that there's these people that have such big hearts to help them is just incredible. So there you are, you're young, you're living in this terrible camp that terrible things were taught there, but you were living your best little human life. So where did y'all move next?
Well, to make very long stories very short, we lived in 7 countries. Each time we moved to a new country, it was to get into America. We wanted to get into North America our whole lives. That's all I remember my parents talking about. One day we'll be in America. One day, each time with a different accent because we lived in 7 countries. So,
Right.
Me cae en America. The next we get to Argentina, vámonos a America. Then we get to y ya llegamos a America, meaning we already arrived to America? No, this is Bolivia.
Are we there yet?
And then we get to Brazil, and my mother says, finalmente nos vamos chegar para America. And I go,
That's
oh,
Portuguese, everybody.
Oh, we get to America.
Muito bom.
My world, everything was just fun, meeting new people, meeting new homes and new ways of living and new foods. My sister felt oppressed. She was very uncomfortable with the moves, with different scenery, with different people, with different races, with different languages, with different foods. It was very difficult for her to really get comfortable enough in each one of the countries. When we finally arrived in America in 1959, which I was 14 years old, we arrived in America, we got off the plane, and there was a whole group of people waiting for us to get off the plane. And there was white road. And we said, why is everything in America white? It was snowing. We had seen snow since we were little kids. Like,
Poland.
you know,
Right.
we lived in Brazil, and in Brazil, it's all hot, right? Well, there's winter, but we never saw snow. So the snow was like the miracle. And my sister said, I'm in America. I'm never leaving. I'm never leaving.
I
My
love
sister
it.
she was 12 and a half. And me saying, no, I'm going back to Brazil. I want to go back to Brazil. Eu quero ir para o Brasil, não quero ficar aqui, não quero ser americana, eu ódio os Estados Unidos. I hate America. I was there for 3 years.
A little teenage brat.
See, suddenly I turned into a brat. That's it. That's the thing. The whole story of my life is
Well,
that
so where did y'all settle in the US?
we finally came to the US in 59 to Brooklyn, New York, and we lived in front of Prospect Park, which was an all-black neighborhood at the time in Brooklyn. Today it's very mixed and very expensive.
Brooklyn in the house. Okay, I had to get that out.
That. I knew that was coming.
And I had a blast. I loved living in Brooklyn, New York. Loving it. And then, but when I go back to growing up in all those countries, we were the foreigners. We were the weirdos. We were the ones that were ostracized. People discriminated against us in every single country we lived in. As a matter of fact, I remember being a little girl and my father had made some hats for me and my sister. We were still starving. We were in starvation mode still in Bolivia. And we're standing on the street with these black hats my father painted so we could go out there and play. And kids came by with buckets of water and threw it on us. And that black paint from the hats was dripping all over our faces. The kids were screaming and crying and calling the neighborhood kids, saying we were witches.
Oh my gosh.
That was memories of other children in other countries that did not find it acceptable to see people who were strangers.
Right.
But none of that scared me, and it scared my sister. But my sister left with a lot more wounds than I did. I was much more outgoing. Not only that, I found out that my mother used to say in Bolivia, when we arrived in Bolivia, she would say, you're allowed to play in front of the house only if there are other children there and adults. But you can't go out of that house because if you turn the corner, those boys can bite. What it was is when Bolivia let in Jews, they also let in the Nazis. Nazis were our next door neighbors.
Oh, wow.
And my mother didn't tell me that until I was older so that I could understand. But she tried to keep me away from there so that I would not get hurt. They were petrified. Can you imagine living your whole life thinking you're going to be killed by the Nazis because they're your next door neighbors? And so remember Mom always being scared, always being afraid, always looking out that we should be safe somehow. And yet they went to work every day at 7:30, came back late at night. And my sister and I used to make jewelry for the local Indians and sell it. Probably pennies, because, but still we were different and we were making a living. All of us worked to make a living.
Wow.
I
So how was Brooklyn?
Yeah, no, like I'm sitting here.
I'm this rosy Brooklyn. I want to hear the true Brooklyn.
The true New Yorker, the Brooklynese, right? So let me just tell you, people, my grandmother used to tell me stories. Things are not good for you because she knew growing up in Bensonhurst, where I grew up, right? So, but listening to you, Tinkerbell, grandma would say, because I love White Castles and different things, and she would come up with a story as to why I didn't need it because she was protecting me, knowing if I went 2 blocks, right, there were certain people in the Italian neighborhood that they literally did not care about our life. Like they would beat us and whatever. But for some reason, just like you, I was that one that was okay. It was like, oh, that's Shell over there. Shell, come over here. You're gonna go to, Stoop Wall, Shell. You're gonna be a good kid. but they never hurt me. And it's like, you don't mess with Shell's White Castle. You don't mess with Shell's White Castle. You Paulie, come over here. But grandma knew the other side to that. And she was just like telling me, you don't really like White Castles. It's not good for you. What she was really saying is don't go around that block because something bad can happen because I got to go to work because I got to take care of you. So I'm listening to you going, dang, this is real.
Now, also remember, so with the Italians, we know when they came to this country, you know, back in, you know, let's say the ones that came over 1900 time frame, they were treated terrible, just like the Irish were treated terrible. And it was just this whole thing now, but you know, what Tinkerbell grew up in was completely different. I mean, it was, you know, it made the other stuff very light.
But you know, I think we all grow up with certain fears, right? Lucky for me, those fears that a lot of the other children felt, and my sister did also, were not part of my life. For some reason, I embraced places that I went to, and all I wanted to do was take care of the children. I was 5 years old, and I was in Germany, and I remember my mother's one of my mother's new friends, right, in our little, I don't know what to call it, in our little prison, a little cell. He was he worked with lights. He worked with electricity. I think he might have been an electrician, but I'm not sure because I remember him talking about electricity. He would hold wires together and make them go so that I would be laughing and the other kids would be crying, but I always was laughing. And I remember saying to everybody, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go for a walk. Everybody come for a walk. And I was not even 5 because I moved from Bolivia when I was 5. And all these adults, at least 12 adults and some children, started walking with me in the woods outside, and I was dancing in front of them. And so the electrician, who I think was an electrician, said to me, so at that time I was called Pessoa, which means little Paulette. He said, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because at 5 years old, I was tiny, like really
tiny. Be tall.
Maybe 2. And he said, what do you want to be?
5 feet tall, and you never were.
And at 5, I said, I want to take care of children. Now, I don't know 5-year-olds that say that.
Right.
So maybe you were saying, Shell, that being in that camp, and what you were saying, Kelly, that being in that camp made me feel like the big sister, like I was taking care of them. But 3 months ago, I found a cousin. He's a third cousin who I've known for many, many, many years. But he told me for the first time that he lived in the same place that I was born in the USSR. He watched me be born. He met me right after I was born, and he was 5 years old.
Wow.
And he said, Tinkerbell, we weren't real cousins, but we always called each other cousins. But I don't remember him at all, obviously, because I was only 3 months old. I'm a newborn and 3 months gone. But he remembers a lot of things that I didn't remember. So he started filling me in on the camp. And she said, when we were in the camp, you used to take care of the other kids. So I think I grew up with, in my mind, thinking that children needed to be taken care of.
Yes.
Realizing that other children don't take care of children, but it made me realize that children can take care of children. So in our program, and I know you didn't mention what our program is. Our program is 35 years old. And it is for children whose parents are in prison or who just got out of prison, because we work in the courts when they get out of prison as well. And I remember thinking that when I was working in the courts here in the United States, that the first thing I asked the inmates was, where are your children? And they would tell me, they're here, they're there. Do you ever see them? And they go, no, they were taken away from me, or my ex-girlfriend or my wife won't let them see me. And I would go looking for the kids and bring them to prison to visit their parents. That's how it all started. I would literally go in the streets, go to the schools, go to hospitals and ask, have you seen these children? Do you know about these children? And found out where they were and if they were in foster care. Sometimes I convinced the parents to let me bring them. But most of the time, foster parents did not want me to bring the kids to visit their parents.
Right.
But that's how me looking for the children. So I think I've spent my whole life looking for kids who were in trouble or who would get in trouble if they didn't get some assistance. And it's been my life's work, even though somehow or other, because I'm 79, I
Mhm.
managed to squeeze in 2 husbands, 10 grandchildren, 3 children of my own that I married a guy who called himself the king. He was considered a king in his community, and he lived in Bensonhurst, Shell.
Shut the door.
Hurst.
Shut the door.
Mother.
Shut the
We're
back
gonna
door.
have some coffee.
And his mother used to,
Man,
don't go too far out of the neighborhood because those Italian boys bite. My mother used to tell me those boys over there bit. So I'm saying, what?
See, we went through the same thing. Your mother and my grandmother was probably OG best friends back then.
Probably. They were from Syria. He was considered a Syrian king. Not a Syrian king, a Syrian king tribe. He was the king of the tribes. So when he
wow.
went to temple, you know, he had like control of the entire temple. He was like, everybody rose when he stood up, and his father, for sure. So first I married a Syrian king, and my second husband is German. So my parents were Jewish. I believe in all the religions because I believe there's only one God. So we all have the same God. And we all believe in the goodness of man. Not all of us can practice it, though. Some people practice the hatred. And,
That's good right
Now,
there.
this second husband you married,
yes,
we'll
he's
call
an angel.
him Mr. Brady, and who I haven't met him, but I got to experience who he is when you had us to your place, but he wasn't there. And I saw his love for music and his love for you and both your families. And my God, what a beautiful family that y'all have blended. And the pictures in your house were my favorite, or how your condo in the air, very stunning place. But the best part of it was the pictures, and of course your husband's collection of pictures and musical instruments.
And, yeah, travel through
But,
time, just
but
a travel through time.
I
I
want you
met
to
your
know,
grandsons and your 2 of your handsome grandsons with their adorable girlfriends. And I'm like, who are these perfect kids? And of course they came from the perfect woman. So
you know what it is? I would like to hear what you consider perfect, because to me, perfect is somebody who knows that they're not perfect and are willing to keep striving to get to that point of being more perfect every day.
You just described it.
perfection comes
I
from
agree.
it comes from the heart, and it comes from your smile and your dancing eyes.
Yes,
And
yes.
now you're not the perfect height unless we need to get something and underneath the sink.
Have you ever seen me drive, guys? If you saw me walk into
Nobody
my car,
can. You're like this. Just see the little hair, the little fro.
building today, and the doorman comes out and he says, "Let me park your car for you." And I had to pull off the 2 pillows I was sitting on, my seat back all the way back, then I had to lower so that this in.
I can see it all right now. I would not want to jump in the car after you've been driving it.
Talking about banging up your knees. But Kelly, so I want to say that we've been invited to see the other part of Tinkerbell's World in July in the Carolinas. So I am making plans on joining her and to continue this work. I was telling her that the thing that is so funny, every time someone talks about a fundraiser or doing something, Kelly's like, we gotta do it for Tinkerbell. We gotta do it for Silent. Like, he is all in with everything inside of him. And so we're just excited. Trust me. Like, did you tell him about Tinkerbell? And it's like, Tinkerbell, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be taller.
I want to tell you, you guys, the 2 of you, have made such an impression on me. I talk to you guys all the time, and we kind of disappeared from each other for about 3 months. And I thought maybe you guys just disappeared, went to live in another country or something, because we weren't in touch with each other for some crazy reason for about 2 months, maybe not
Technology.
for 2 months, right? And then one day you call me, you tell me about the Campbells, and I never told you the experience with the Campbells. They are like so lovely, so amazing, lovely.
Yes.
Thank you for the experience of being with them. I know that because of you, we'll end up being friends forever. I can't wait for you and Kelly. Are you coming also?
We're gonna bring Kelly down there again. He's so busy. He's so busy with work that sometimes I have to get on his calendar. Like, can you imagine? I have to get on his calendar.
Is very.
I meet these amazing people, and I know I need to do as much as I can just to be 1/10 of the people that I admire. Here's something Nouchelle doesn't know. Recently, I was being interviewed for something, and they asked me, who did I admire most? And so I told them all about Nouchelle. And it was, it was wonderful. And only because I know you better than Tinkerbell, because, my list of people that I admire is so huge. But I had to respond quickly. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, oh, no, this is an easy answer. It's Nouchelle. There's a lot of people out there that struggle in life. Unfortunately, there was a golfer who was living, a lot of men's dreams and women's dreams of playing on the PGA Tour. And he unfortunately took his life last weekend after qualifying to play over the weekend. And I struggle with empathy, and I just want to smack the crap out of him. It's like, whatever you had going on in life, it wasn't as bad as what people have gone through. And I think people need to understand people more, because we all have a history. Like I was saying, the Italians were made to the Irish and the Polish and the Catholics and the Jews, all because of it's that old, the dog gets kicked story, and it all goes downhill, or it all can go better. And we can all remember that there is people that really have struggles, and it drives me crazy. I was playing golf years ago in a tournament. A guy that was a retired dentist, he asked my buddy, he goes, why doesn't Kelly get upset when he hits a bad shot? He just kind of laughs it off. And my buddy Greg says, because he lost his friend Tim a couple of years ago, and he'd kill to have him golfing with him.
Oh.
So, it's like, you got to keep everything in perspective. I suck at golf. I enjoy it. And I play a lot, and people think I'm better than I am because they hear about my golf so much. But we have to keep things in perspective, and, I know Tim Peters is looking down on my life, so I try to do better and better. But there's all these amazing people. We need to remember, that you were born at 2 pounds, nowhere, in a country that your family wasn't familiar with. And you have affected tens of thousands of people or more in your life. And just to know you and to have you know my name is such an incredible honor.
Yeah.
And so when I see that golfer, because my friend John Marks got mad at me when I kind of said, can you believe that guy did that? I don't know this guy's life, but give me a break, dude. You were drinking when you have depression issues. Guess what? If you have problems like that, don't drink. Go out and help somebody. Call up Tinkerbell and she'll put you to work. Call up Nouchelle, and you'll never have a chance to think about yourself ever again. If you're selfless, your life is so much better. And I remember the first time Nouchelle made me be Santa Claus, and I'm down in Homestead where all these kids had nothing, and they're seeing this guy in his cheap suit, and they're getting all excited. And as a Christian, I'm like, should I be a Santa Claus or not? Now I embrace it like nobody's business. It's 110 degrees in this suit for 3.5 hours, and we finish off with a dance off with some phony Santa that came out late. This video, please nobody watch it. But I lost literally 8 pounds that day, which was great. I was happy. But these people come over and thanking me afterwards. I'm going, it was 1,000 times better for me than any of these kids got out of this.
Yes,
know,
yes,
people
yes.
need to put themselves out there and do stuff. And to know what you two do in your life just gives me chills, because it's
Wow,
amazing the size of hearts that you women have. And you
wow.
don't have to be that way. You know, what we haven't talked about, Tinkerbell, is you, when you left your first husband because he wasn't a good guy, you went
He
out
wasn't,
there and you had kids that were relying on you, and you went out and started a multi-million-dollar business and
Yeah,
created
serving,
you've been very, very successful in life.
serving,
And so
serving.
how do you measure success? Do you measure it by the millions you've made, or do you measure it by the people you've touched? And I say it's the latter, but the first part helped pave the way,
Yeah, yeah,
no, I'll tell you one thing, you cannot help other people until you're fully healed and you're safe. You can't
I
save
don't
anybody.
agree. I
yeah.
don't agree. I think that's how you
Absolutely,
get there,
absolutely.
Tinkerbell. I think
First,
that's how you get there.
yeah, first you got to be okay. But then you have to, like I tell everyone, people say, how come you're always so happy? And I tell what my husband always says. I wake up in the morning and I go into, he's always in his study already. By the time I wake up, which is 7:30, he's already sitting in his study. And I walk in and I go, hi, honey. And he goes, oh, happy again.
Yes, yes.
Takes time to get happy. Takes some
Now let's,
wake up. But the most important thing in my life has not been how well we made out ultimately, which helped a lot of people, by the way, but how
sure.
we saw ourselves with the most
Yes,
amazing people that anybody could meet. So
yes.
everything in my life is about people. It's all about surrounding myself with people like Nouchelle and Kelly. I mean, when Kelly walked in with those 100 footballs, soccer balls, whatever it is, and in that heat out there, and started throwing those balls at the kids, it was right here on earth. And all those people, there were 120 people in that room. All they thought about was how lucky they all are that we're all together. We're
Yes,
safe, we're happy, and we're enjoying each other. That's what life is about. When people tell me what makes me the happiest, I'm the happiest when I'm with people that I love, people who care about the world. And so everybody else hurts themselves by hurting others. We at
Right.
least have something that makes us feel good and makes other people feel good. And that's what makes up the world. That's all that matters.
yeah. You know, Tinkerbell, I have to give you an update. Kelly, you're talking about the 102 degrees in that suit. There's two women who've done something so remarkable. This past year, Nikki Smith, she's with Empire Works. And we remember you gave us the request late for the extra large sweatshirt, the pulling
Yes,
the hood overs. And
yes.
I was like, oh my gosh, it's the vacation time. And Nikki was traveling somewhere, and I told her, so we got this last minute request so the kids could be comfortable. Now I'm understanding more and more, right? And so I'm like, they've got to be a certain size. And she was like, well, I don't have time to go get them, but I want to make sure that Empire Works can do this down in Miami to make sure. And I was like, man, it's going to be hot for those kids in that. But the comfort, I'm hearing you today, it's about the comfort. It's about the level of confidence that these things bring. But when I'm out now, I see the children in the sweatshirts, and I'm going, oh my, I was just at a hospital a couple of days ago with a parent, and their child had on the sweatshirt and the basketball while their father was on life support. But they had the basketball and they had the sweatshirt. Like, that's remarkable. And then the last is 2 years ago when Monica was on her way out of the country for family vacation, and that family that we went to the projects to help, that woman is still doing great because we cared. And that's the kind of thing that comes through you and the work that you do. Don't ever forget it. Don't forget that.
The day I die, I will be taking care of these children because they are graduating, going to college. You know how many graduations we have this month? Eight. Eight kids
Wow.
graduating high school, and 6 of them are going to college, and 2 of them going to either work or do technical college. But all of them
Wonderful.
graduate, and none of them are in trouble or in prison. None. none.
Yeah, that's such a huge blessing, and it affects everybody that is involved. So I don't, we're way over time. I don't care. I hope y'all don't care. But I do want to touch on one thing. They always say opposites attract. And of course, I haven't found my next opposite or whatever she's going to be, but I'm sure she's out there somewhere. You and your husband aren't opposites. And I do want to touch, because he is one of my heroes that I haven't met. And so he does fundraising to feed what people in Chicago. Isn't that what his nonprofit
I
passion
met,
is?
he was my client, and I fell in love with him because I found out that his love, although we're so opposite in personalities, was the same as my love. He had started a program. He was co-founder for a program that was for the homeless. And he created the biggest homeless shelter in Illinois, in Chicago. They were based in Chicago, Illinois. And it was called the Chicago Anti-Hunger Federation, with a friend of his. And he helped us start the whole program. And the two of them now, the program now feeds 275 people per month.
Wow. Wayne,
That's just
what do you
wonderful.
gotta go
It's
do
just,
when you go to Chicago?
75,000 people per month.
I didn't want to correct you because I thought that was the number, but I was afraid to say something.
People per month, because they serve shelters.
Right.
And the food, they serve food, and they have a Oliver's Kitchen where they teach the homeless how to cook and be chefs in Chicago. So when I met him and he had the same love for people as I did, it was kind of instant. And it took 5 years before he asked me out. 5 years, guys, before he asked me out.
Oh
What a
my
chicken.
God.
You're gonna see why. He's like
Yeah.
this, another angel,
Yeah.
another
Wow.
angel.
So here I was about a month and a half ago. I was getting some Chinese food, and a girl came in. It looked like she probably was a heroin addict, and she asked me for $1. I said, no, but pick anything out on the menu and I'll buy it. So she ended up
Right.
like buying about $20 worth of stuff. And I'm hoping she wasn't going to sell it to buy stuff, but there's only so far you can be. So I did that, and I walked out going, there's always more we can do. I was one person for one meal, and your husband does 275,000 meals a month. Mind blowing. I mean, absolutely. It's also sad that many people need food in that area.
Yes. The
But
same country that you and your mom wanted to get to is the same country that you're now feeding.
yeah.
Feeding
Isn't that
America.
Isn't that
So the next
interesting?
time that somebody goes out to, eat at Lobster Bar or whatever, and drinks these expensive drinks, why don't you think about maybe taking some more of
Watch
that
it,
money and
Kelly.
help people? Hey, I eat occasionally at the Lobster Bar. I'm not gonna lie, that's why I knew the name of the place. But I just, people just are so self-absorbed, and I just want people to be more like Tinkerbell and Nouchelle. That's all I'm asking.
But and
I
he
don't ask
also
for much.
wants people to be happy. So I got to throw this in there. Not far from his house is this dessert shop. He won't eat it, but he will
On
watch
commercial.
me eat it. He will let me eat it. He will pay for it. And I'm like this.
So it's a
Can I
little
have
Italian
another one?
place in Lauderdale by the
No.
Sea on commercial. We'll give them a shout out, although I don't know the name. I'm surprised Michelle doesn't know the name. I don't eat desserts. I try to avoid them. But I'm glad we finished up on Lido. Again, I was really serious at the beginning. I knew this was going to be amazing. Wayne is going to be very upset that he wasn't part of this. And we're going to have you on again. But
Yep.
Yep. I got to get everybody moving on to the rest of their day, because you guys have amazing lives going on, affecting so many people. It's an honor to know both of you. I can't wait till the next time we're all together. And is there anything you would like to say, Tinkerbell, in closing?
I think that knowing Kelly and knowing
No, not
Shelley,
about us. Say it to the guests, not about
It-
heck with us.
knowing Shelley,
The way you think, Brooklyn.
two angels of this world, I want you to know that we're stronger in groups, and we admire each other because we are like each other. And if we can keep collecting people around us that are admirers of giving love to the world, then it will be a better world, because we together are much stronger than we're separate.
That's great. Tinkerbell,
Your
we
world.
absolutely love you with all of our heart. You are a blessing to so many.
Love you, love you, love you guys.
Love you, love you,
Have
love
a-
you more.
Do some twerking. It's great exercise. Yeah, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you just? And I don't edit. Everybody have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Nouchelle, Tinkerbell, we love you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.